Something that might be a huge surprise, though, is Jeff Bezos coming out of the woodwork recently. Sounds a little insane on the outside, but maybe is possible. Data centers in space. OpenAI has an announcement that they did in the last week, which is that they have launched their agent builder. They call it AgentKit. This is interesting from the perspective that they say, well, you don't need code in order to build agents now. There's this video that you have to see, and you have to kind of think about what the hell happened here. The general idea is you're building ChatGPT, but you're building it in Minecraft. And now let's be clear. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Scott Stephenson AI Show. Wow, a lot has happened in the last week. What's the biggest thing? Is it OpenAI announcing AgentKit? Is it a new Claude model? Is it a few other things that maybe we could sneak peek? No way, you're wrong, sorry. It's VapiCon. VapiCon happened in the last, I guess it was, 4 or 5 days ago, something like that. This is a long time coming where VapiCon is the Voice AI Summit. It happened in San Francisco. A bunch of Voice AI companies and creators and builders and everything showed up. And I would just say it's like the first real modern voice AI conference that is now come out. And it was a great show. Deepgram was there. We launched a new model. We launched Deepgram Flux, which is designed to curb interruptions and drop latency massively for voice agents. And that launch was a huge success. And we're also offering that for free for the month of October. So you can try out Flux and just like make your voice agents awesome. Do it through Deepgram or through any of our partners like Cloudflare, Daily Pipecat, LiveKit, Deepgram ourselves. You can get access to that model and just use it for free, up to 50 concurrent connections. So been awesome to see all the great products that everybody's building and just all the progress that has happened in voice AI. Speaking of voice AI, the market, it intensifies, at least the consumer market, where there's Google and Amazon launching some new products. So Google launched Gemini for Home, so basically replacing Google Assistant. This is something that's, Google Assistant's been around for maybe not 10 years, but 7, 8, something like that probably. But they're finally launching the new version, and it's a context-aware assistant powered by LLM, so not the old system. The old system, Google Assistant before, wasn't powered by LLMs, or at least not the modern, big, good ones, So now they're switching that. They're improving their voices, that type of thing. So look out for that. Amazon also it mentioned an Echo Studio and upgrading Alexa with like new voice and capabilities and that type of thing. So, hey, it's been essentially like a year since voice AI went mainstream. Now, finally, these big consumer brands are getting their products out there. Probably now it's not just going to be like, hey, Alexa, turn on the lights or, turn down the thermostat or something like that. You'll actually be able to do a lot more with it now compared to what was capable in the past. We're starting to see the hardware race intensify too. So we just talked about last time NVIDIA did a big deal with OpenAI, and there's like all this circular money flowing. Like, I'll give money to OpenAI, but then OpenAI buys, from NVIDIA. So NVIDIA just basically like bought revenue and that type of thing. This is great. It's feeding the AI ecosystem, but OpenAI did a deal with AMD as well. And the AMD one is a little more favorable for OpenAI, I think, where they get a stake in AMD and that type of thing. But general idea here is just more hardware being bought and a diversification of compute for OpenAI. And quite honestly, this is what a lot of companies are looking at. NVIDIA makes a lot of money. They make really great products, but AMD is coming to challenge. And so we need some healthy competition there. And so this is one thing that's happening. So I mentioned the new Claude came out. So Claude Sonnet 4.5 has come out, but also Google DeepMind launched something called CodeMender. Sonnet 4.5, there's a lot of people who like Sonnet. There's a lot of people who like the Claude models, especially folks who are coding and trying to, get work done. And so that's a welcome release from Anthropic, and we'll see how it shakes out in the market, but at least first signs are that's really good. Google DeepMind came out with CodeMender, which joined in with different open source projects and submitted pull requests and fixed bugs, like 72 different instances of it. And so, 72 doesn't sound like a big number to me. There's a lot of things that you can do in open source coding and help with. A lot of tickets to resolve. So it sounds like they're just getting started, basically. They're just kind of kicking off their endeavor. Google is betting heavily that AI will be this like frontline tool that's obvious. And there's another piece here that I think is sort of creeping in, which is that they're building for like these big labs and the big product builders are building for machines a lot now. So like that coding type model and product is a human interacting with a product and then utilizing the LLMs in order to build something. But a lot of the design there actually is machines talking to machines in order to get work done. And you see this theme continuing with Google doing some layoffs, not a huge layoff, just, tens of people, but in specific orgs in Google where they're not as AI enabled. And so you could see how they're pushing internally to say, hey, if you're not retooling in order to use AI to do your job, then maybe you should find work somewhere else. This is, wait. This is what it looks like Google is saying. I think this is just a general trend. It's the intelligence revolution. This is something that's happening. It isn't necessarily that AI is going to take your job. It's that somebody who knows how to use AI is going to come in and be more productive in that position. Speaking of other big compute deals, so Meta did a big deal with CoreWeave. I think CoreWeave went public recently. This is another kind of build out. CoreWeave stands up hardware, generally NVIDIA GPUs, and then folks who need those GPUs sign big contracts and train their models on them or put inference workloads on them. Yeah, Meta just struck a deal, a $14 billion deal with CoreWeave. This, I think, is an interesting signal because Facebook, Meta, they typically build their own data centers. Not only that, they recently, in the last couple of years, they started the build out of a data center, I think based in Texas, where it was built a certain way. And then actually they just bulldozed it and teared it down after putting many millions into it because they realized that the AI wave is here and they needed to build a more AI specific data center. So literally they just bulldozed it, leveled it, and then rebuilt an AI specific one. Meta is building data centers. They're putting a whole bunch of money into it, but they're also kind of diversifying their risk here and saying, okay, well, maybe we'll build data centers. Maybe we'll try out CoreWeave. Maybe they'll try out something else too. These are all moves that are not huge surprises to be happening. Something that might be a huge surprise though is Jeff Bezos coming out of the woodwork recently. He did this interview where he floated a whole bunch of ideas. Sounds a little insane on the outside, but maybe is possible in the next couple decades, which is data centers in space. Of course, he's kind of hawking his own rocketry company, Blue Origin, here and saying you're going to need to buy a lot of data center footprint in space. But, if you actually run the numbers, it's not extremely insane to say this. It might be 10 times more expensive, even in with current technology, current dollars, et cetera, to stand up a gigawatt data center in space. I did some calculations on this. It seems actually somewhat viable. I don't know if it's worth the hassle. The general argument was, hey, you're going to need solar power in order to power these data centers. Where's all this power going to come from? Solar power, okay. You roughly have infinite solar power out in space compared to what's on Earth. So just send these things out into space, unfurl their solar panels, and then capture that. But now it's not 6 hours in the day. This is typically what's used as like 6 hours of full power is what you can consider that you're going to get for solar energy, even though I know it's light 12 hours a day or more, but it's not full power. So, and also there's infinite space in space. This does, though, evoke a little bit of imagery where you're like, okay, so you have these like massive football-sized or, square mile-sized of solar panels with some NVIDIA GPUs in the center that are just orbiting around the Earth, capturing sun the whole time. How many of them are you going to have? You're going to have 10? No, it's got to be thousands, right? So all of these are orbiting the Earth. It seems like a bit of a hassle, but maybe that happens. I don't know. I think another great thing to talk about right now is OpenAI. So yeah, they talked about a deal with AMD and they talked about a deal with NVIDIA, a week or two ago. But they also launched something called GDP-Val, which is like an evaluation, eval, and GDP-Val, which is them doing a test or putting out a test data set basically to ask the question, how close is AI to being able to do certain types of jobs? And so I think we mentioned it a little bit before, but I'd wanted to highlight just a few of the metrics, and also a little bit of behavior here, which is interesting. OpenAI doesn't seem to be benchmarking too much on this. So they call out Claude Opus 4.1 as being really good. And just remember Opus 4.5, Sonnet 4.5 just came out. And so there's probably probably going to be like a new line here and a new line of testing and whatnot. But the GPT-5 High is number 2, and it's a distant number 2 in comparison. So no benchmarking here. That's notable. Most of the companies aren't willing to put themselves into second place in certain categories, even if it's true that they are. Yeah, just want to call attention to that. This one I think is going to be important. It's something to keep track of over time. So we'll probably come back to it over the next few months. Like, how are we doing on the GDP vow? OpenAI has another announcement that they did in the last week, which is that they have launched their agent builder. They call it AgentKit. This is interesting from the perspective that they say, well, you don't need code in order to build agents now. But in their 5-minute demo, they have you writing a lot of code. Not a lot, I guess, but like you wouldn't know how to do these specific these specific handling portions, like where you say if this, then that, and here's exactly what it has to match and all of that. You wouldn't know to do that unless you were a programmer or already knew how to code, basically. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of great, smart people out there that can figure it out, even if they aren't amazing programmers. But it's kind of interesting, the positioning here, because they're saying, hey, you don't need to code to build agents, but then literally within 30 seconds, they're saying, do some of this coding. It's at least a step. So for agents, you typically had to write all of the code, and it was kind of a complicated mess, and it was really hard to visualize what was happening. But now you can visualize it through their drag and drop editor. I think this product is common. N8N has a product like this. Many of the voice agents are like this. So they're kind of late to the game from that view perspective there. I think they're kind of a little behind on this. Nevertheless, looks like a clean interface, looks like it's going to work. It's probably going to pave the way for a lot of folks paying their tuition in this area, and then they'll probably graduate to other products that are more fully featured compared to the OpenAI agent builder. Yeah, this is kind of the thing that OpenAI does. They pave the way from a marketing perspective or getting people interested in a certain type of product, but unless it's their core product, which is like the ChatGPT model or just a few features in ChatGPT, I think the chatter on Twitter, X, is probably way overblown. You know, there's like this meme now that people say it's to the point of like just massive roll eyes situation. But like whenever OpenAI releases some feature, then 50 people post like, well, there goes 1,000 startups. You know, it's like, this isn't actually how this happens. The market for AI in the world is expanding massively from a demand for AI. Like there's so much room for companies to grow. It's kind of like saying, you know, Microsoft would win the internet or something back in 1998. Like it doesn't make any sense. There's so many companies that are built, so many tech companies that are built on the internet. Same thing is going to be true here. But nevertheless, it marks a milestone. You know, agent builders are going to be commonplace now. Now, I said the Vapicon was the biggest thing this week. I might have lied. There's this video that you have to see. You have to spend some time looking at it, and you have to kind of think about, what the hell happened here? There's this thing in Minecraft and this mechanism called redstone where you can, if you massage it the right way, you can essentially turn it into a computer. I know this sounds stupid. It's a computer running inside a computer, but what I mean is it's like a first principles kind of action-based thing. So a real thing happens, you can follow it along, you know, the signals are propagated, that type of thing. Then you build it from scratch. So it's very similar to building a true 8-bit computer or 16-bit computer. But this video that we're watching here is showing the process of building a screen in order to view what's happening, a keyboard in order to type into it. So the general idea is you're building ChatGPT, but you're building it in Minecraft. And now let's be clear, the model is real in Minecraft. It actually is a transformer model in there that is doing the chatting and is running on redstone. You know, it's insane. Okay, so Sammy URI or Sammy Uri, I don't know how to say the name. Little mysterious, this creator here. They went through and programmed all these blocks over years, possibly, at least probably around a year scale. So we're talking genius level here. And they built all the different pieces, like the token embedding layers, the, you know, layer by layer of the transformer and the attention modules, and they hand coded the weights into the model. The general idea here, though, is they were off on a normal computer, not the Minecraft, you know, computer. And they trained the models to the point where the model was pretty good at chatting back and forth. It's not amazing. Like I said, it's not cutting edge ChatGPT, but it can have a conversation back and forth. It can tell you that the sky is blue. It can do that type of thing. Then they hand worked all of the parameters into this structure that they built. When you submit the query, it actually calculates through Minecraft's, you know, code to generate what the outputs are. So like there's no magic, there's no mimicry here. There's no like it's all really actually operating in that. And so if you think, ChatGPT is like it's just too crazy. There's no way to understand it. There's oh my God, it's this untouchable, AI is just this untouchable thing. Uh, Somebody built it in Minecraft, okay? They had to do a couple mods to get it to actually run because Minecraft like runs way too slow in order to do ChatGPT. So they sped it up 40,000x. So it's just kind of an awe-striking piece of technology there. Running in your kid's Minecraft. Hey, let's end it for this week, but like check out that video. I swear, it's amazing. We'll link it. We also showed it here a little bit. It also has some dope music, so, listen to that. But until next week, see ya.